Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on today. Today, we are doing our session on engaging youth in supported struggle. And if you could, please put your name and the organization that you're representing within the chat so that we can know who is in attendance, and also your fellow youth workers can know who is within this session with you. Again, your name and the organization that you are representing. Today, we're in good hands once again with Ms. Renee Abdullah, who we were introduced to on the top of the year in January with our first session. So again, Mr. Von Dotson conducted her last workshop with us on last month with creating safe spaces for our LGBTQ plus young people in our spaces. And so now we have Ms. Renee Abdullah, who has done an outstanding job, and we look forward to future sessions with her. So without further ado, I will hand it over to her, and thank you all so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Antonio, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As he said, my name is Renee Abdullah. If I met you last month, welcome back. If this is your first month with us, welcome. Today, we will be going over the engaging youth in a supported struggle. So we will be together for the next couple of hours, but similar to how the workshops worked previously, I am not going to be talking for 2 hours. It is going to be very much interactive. I will give you some content, and then we will spend a significant amount of time on application and implementation. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. And I'm gonna get started first with an opening activity. So for our opening activity today, we are actually gonna go into breakout rooms, and I see that it's about 9 of us here. So let me go ahead and set those up now. I'm gonna put you about 3 to a breakout room-ish, 3 to 4 per breakout room. And it's blinking out on me. Antonio, I may need, okay, here, it came back, okay. Started blinking on me. The breakout room started blinking on me, but it is okay. So you'll have 3 to 4 people per breakout room. When you get into your breakout room, I ask that you just share your name and your pronouns. And then I want you to share your response to this opening question that I am going to bring up on the screen now. What is one of your greatest accomplishments? And was it easy or difficult, and how so? I know that's a real deep question, but it is intentional in how we do this. So once I put you into the breakout rooms, I want you to speak for about a minute each and share what some of those are. And we're going to come back and do a share out, and then we'll connect it to how all of this is going later on today. So let me go ahead and set the timer in the breakout rooms. You all will have 5 minutes in there. So that gives you about a minute apiece and a minute to kind of get together and introduce yourselves. So I am going to open the rooms now. All right. Hello, hello. I hope everyone is officially back. Let's see. We're back. Room 2 is coming back. Here we go. I believe everyone is back in the room now. Can somebody give me some kind of reaction? Thumbs up, hands clap, fire emoji to let me know you guys are back. Or come off of mute. Yay, that works too. Hello. All right.
Hello.
So we are back. I know that 5 minutes is an extra short amount of time, but I hope that you all were able to provide some quick introductions amongst yourselves. So I just want to see if anybody is comfortable sharing out what they discussed in the room. If I can have like 1 or 2, maybe 3 people, go ahead and share out.
In group 1, we talked about things that our biggest accomplishments or what we achieved this far. We have a gentleman, Charles. He was talking about how he won the championship, and he coaches arena football here in Louisville, which is kind of big because that's just very big to win a championship and then to be the arena football team. Then my biggest accomplishment was becoming we're getting my nonprofit organization off the ground. And then Kenya talked about one of her biggest accomplishments is being a grandparent.
What kind of nonprofit did you do, Mr. Clark?
It's youth development. It's based around the youth. So I do like several different programs. I have one called the Arts of Music Education and Entertainment. Inside of that program, we focus on teaching students everything they need to know in order to be an entrepreneur in the music industry, as well as teaching them transferable skill sets that align with audio production, video production, graphic design. We teach them about copyrights, publishing, BDS, and pretty much how to get all the paperwork done. We do all of that for them, so we pay for all of that stuff. It's a free program, and it's pretty much all inclusive when it comes to that. We do a lot of other stuff too.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. That sounds like an amazing opportunity for youth, being able to learn all the different aspects that go into that. So thank you so much for sharing. I forgot which room you saw. I think you were room 1. So let me go on to room 2. Did you all have anything to share out? All right. Room 2, I'm gonna give y'all one more chance. I don't want to move on. I know the radio silence is uncomfortable in the virtual space sometimes, but I want to make sure that I do give you all a chance to speak out. But as you go through and as we were going through the responses and people were giving their feedback and you were in your room, I really wanted you to really notice as you were listening and during your session, like what exactly did you notice there? How easy was it to come up with one of your greatest accomplishments on the spot and share that out? You all are just getting to know one another. Well, maybe you all do know one another and some of you may be closer than others. So just immediately going into a room and coming up with that accomplishment and sharing that out. It's different ways when we share out how we interpret struggle in our lives. So we can say, oh, it was one of our greatest accomplishments, but it came easy to us. It was one of my greatest accomplishments. It was one of my greatest accomplishments, but it was a struggle. So really thinking about how do we view struggle and how does that relate to what we accomplish? So with that, we are going to go ahead and jump into our session. Let me go here. All right. So for this one, we are going to look at preparing youth and children to strive. So we are in that cognitive development stage of that social emotional learning. And with this workshop in particular, we are going to focus on initiative. Kenya, did you have your hand raised? I'm sorry, I'm not a Zoomer, so.
I
Please
did, because I just caught it, and it was, the question was, what was your struggle? What are you most proudest of, or some of the struggles that you proud of? But I just stuck to what I was most proud of. I just wanted to clear it up, because as we go on, I see where we're targeting. And I was the one saying becoming a grandparent, so I would have to say I'm gonna change it.
Okay.
I would have to say achieving higher education. There's been several, and I'm grateful. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say stick with achieving higher education. So just to move forward, because I see where we're going.
I got you.
And my grandson ain't gonna be able to. Well, he probably could, because he's very smart to be 3. So we don't know.
Aw. Well, congratulations on being a grandmommy. Anyway, that's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
Yes. Now you can spoil them and send them home, and it's great. All day and all night. All right. All right. So we are going to move into the pyramid, how it connects to this particular workshop. And we will do some more interactive activities throughout, but really thinking about how can we engage youth in a supported struggle. A lot of times our youth get to something and they struggle with it, and how do we make them less stressed in that actual struggle moment? So when we talk about the social emotional learning pyramid of program quality, these are our 4 quadrants. And again, if you were in any previous workshops having to do with this SEL methods, then you are very familiar with this pyramid, because the base of the pyramid talks about that safe environment, being able to create the safe spaces for our youth. So that's physical safety, emotional safety, all of that, making sure that youth come into the program space feeling safe. The most basic needs are being met, right? That healthy food and drinks, all of that. So when we go into the next layer of the pyramid, that is the supportive environment. And that's where we will focus on today, because we're talking about with that big focus on fostering that growth mindset, but also incorporating that scaffolding learning. Part of the supportive environment, which we won't really touch on today, is that emotion coaching, but that's a whole another workshop in itself. So that is in that second tier of the pyramid. And then the third tier of the pyramid, as we move on into more of the social emotional learning, it goes into that interactive environment. So that is where we really cultivate that empathy and promote that responsibility and leadership, right? That accountability within our youth, and also fostering that teamwork. So this is where they learn those group processing skills, where they are put into groups and they have those interdependent roles where they learn how to work together to accomplish a common goal. But also, if my number 4 in my group leaves, we are struggling because they had that interdependent role. We really relied on them to achieve our goal. So that's that fostering teamwork. And then at the very tip of that social emotional is where we're trying to get to after we build all of our other layers up. And that is making sure that we create that engaging environment. So we are here, we are really supporting our youth plans and goals that they come up with. So this is where we really encourage you to plan and reflect and make choices. We support what their interests are, what the youth's interests are, and also furthering learning, because we are going through that constant cycle with the youth of the plan, the do, assess. So it's always that constant learning once we get to that tip of the pyramid. All right, so today, these are what our learning objectives are. I want you all to be able to understand what those characteristics are of what a supported struggle is, and also understanding further what it means by growth mindset. We are going to create encouraging language statements to provide supported struggle and foster growth mindset. So we are going to look at the language that we use. Is it fixed mindset versus growth mindset? Is it adult-centered language that we're using, or are we using more youth-centered language? So we'll go through some of that and some different examples of it. We really want to look at some of the pitfalls of the growth mindset and relate it right back to that equity lens. So having that equity lens in mind as we talk about the growth mindset and some potential pitfalls of it. And then in the end, I want you all to be able to create all tongue-tied. I want you all to be able to create an implementation plan with strategies to really help you engage in that supported struggle. So this will be directly related to the youth that you work with every day, because you'll just take the content that we discussed and do an implementation plan as it relates to you. So those are our objectives for today. As far as the agenda, the welcome and setting the stage, we've done that. We've done our, we did one open activity. We'll do another activity. We'll talk about some central ideas and practices. So part 1 and 2. Then we'll do an application about what we talked about, what we discussed. And then we talked about that implementation plan. And as always, we will close it out with a closing and reflection. Housekeeping. As far as materials for today, Antonio put it in the chat. If you don't have it, just go in the chat and let him know. But you should have a PDF of the PowerPoint that we're going through. And you should also have a PDF of the participant workbook. As far as the workbook, that is the only thing that you will need to have handy. You can have the PowerPoint for later, but I do ask that you have that workbook handy, because we will refer to it and use it for some of the engagement throughout. If at any time my sound is going in and out, I can't tell on my end, so just please come off of mute and just say, hey, I can't hear you, and then I'll try to be technical support and fix my end, but just give me a heads up if at any time you cannot hear me or it starts cutting out on my end. All right. As far as the other stuff, we want you to really focus on self-care. So I know that we have been in this virtual posture for quite a bit of time. And sometimes you need to just get up and walk away. And I understand that. Get up, grab your water, your coffee, your lunch, whatever snack helps you really power through. And I ask that if you do get up and walk away, that you come back and that you're fully engaged. And that is only because this workshop is so driven by your participation. All right, so let me advance. Group agreements. These are some group agreements that we want to put in place just to make sure that we create an opening and sharing environment, and in a place where people are comfortable sharing and sharing best practices and sharing stories as well. So we want to remember that learning is social, and we will be learning from one another as a community. So creating those professional learning communities, which is here, and that's what it's all about. We also recognize that it is emotional. So we want to make sure that we honor what emotions that we bring into this space. We work with youth every day, and it's close to our heart. So we have to understand and recognize that there is some emotion behind what we share and what we speak about. We also recognize that it is cognitive. So we are going to focus our attention and fully engage our mind. So trying to remove any kind of distractions so that we can be fully engaged. And we also recognize that life experiences, bias, racism, cultural backgrounds, gender, age, all of that can affect our learning experiences today. So just keep that in mind as people share out and as we create this professional learning space. I am going to give it about 30 seconds so that you can review this and let me know if there is anything you all would like to add. All right, so we are going to keep it moving. This is a pop quiz, another opening activity that I have for you all. So we're just going to do 1 or 2 pop quizzes really quick. Should be easy. I mean, it looks like you all know what you're doing, so I'm sure you'll do just fine. And I'm going to give you 2 minutes to work on this pop quiz. So here we go. Determine the value of the unknown in each equation. Only because you're the only one I can see, Antonio. I love your reaction. Go ahead back. Carry the 2, -5, or something like that. And I will give you all 2 minutes to work on this. I promise it's all going to make sense in the end. All right, you all have about 1 more minute. All right. So I hope that you all struggled a little bit. I mean, I know I did. I didn't get any answers right. I promise you. I got 1 W by itself on number 3, but other than that, after I +5 on both sides, I didn't know what to do. So yes. So this is all about understanding what the struggle is and saying, you know, it shouldn't take you all that long. You all will do fine. I'm sure you all look pretty smart, so you all should do it. And then I turn to the slide and it's like, wait a minute though, I don't know how to do this. And it's all about recognizing what that supported struggle is. And, you know, typically smart or talented people are seen as those for whom something comes easily. And people may not feel smart or talented or if something doesn't come easy. So if I say it should come easy to you, you all should know that. And then you go and it's not easy, then that youth may tend to shut down in that moment, right? Because now I'm struggling and you're telling me I shouldn't even be struggling in this moment. So what's wrong with me, right? I'm going to give you all 1 more quiz, and then we are going to debrief a little bit to see how we felt about this. So here's 1 more quiz. This one's even easier than the first one, I promise. Let's see. Name as many countries in Africa as you can. Easy, right? All right, I'm gonna give you all about another minute. I'm pretty sure that you all have most of the countries written down by now. So I'm gonna give you all about 1 more minute to put them down. All right. And that is time. So I would like to do a debrief with you all, and you all can feel free to come off of mute and share as you feel comfortable. So whenever we do a debrief, we're going to follow the ORID method. So that is to observe, reflect, interpretive, and decisional. So it's just going through the different steps, asking different questions related to that. So when it comes to observe, what did you notice as you were confronted with the pop quiz? How did it make you feel, and what challenges did you face?
Ask the question again.
So as you were confronted with the pop quiz, I said, you know, it's going to be a pop quiz. It should be easy. Shouldn't take you long. You should know the stuff. How did it make you feel once that pop quiz came up? And you could either talk about the math or the geography or both. And what are some challenges you faced, or what are some successes you had as you were going through?
Well, with the math, I had challenges because it's a saying that if you don't use it, you lose it.
Mhm.
So with that being said, it just allowed me to know that I have lost I knew how to set it up, which was a good thing,
Mhm.
but how to work it, I forgot. Because we got to find out, like, you know, what T is and what W is. It's the whole thing to get to the, you know, to work out the problem. Lastly, secondly, finding the African, knowing the African countries is easy because my name is Kenya, so I was able to identify with that fairly easy. But I'm disappointed that was all I came up with.
And that's okay, Kenya. I had South Africa, and that was about it that I came up with, because I know it's down there. But as far as the math, I struggle too. And I consider myself a math person. If you have to ask if I'm math or ELA, I am math 100%. Then that slide came up and I said, okay, maybe I'm not as much math as I thought I was. I'm not smarter than a fifth grader. And it's okay. It's okay. Does anybody else want to share out any challenges they faced as they were going through?
I would just piggyback off of Kenya. It's just once you're not using it, you lose it. Because it was there. And I did get a little nervous when you said pop quiz, but then I was like, oh, okay, no, if it's something that has to do with like kids, a family, a community, I got that. Then you threw us for a curveball because who's thinking it's about to be math? So yeah.
I feel you, Zuri. I feel you. But just something that you touched on, just the anxiety alone of saying, hey, we're going to have a pop quiz today. And it's like, oh, crap. Okay, we are. And not only are we going to have a pop quiz, you all should know this stuff already. So it shouldn't even be that much of a struggle to you. So once that slide came up, it was, oh, yeah, I don't know what to do. And if it had something right on, if I was an actual youth in a classroom where that actually meant something, it could cause a lot of anxiety and eventually cause you to shut down as a youth, right? Like, look, at this point, this may as well be written in Chinese because I cannot read it or understand it any better than that. So understand that some of the things we do or some of the things we put in place make you struggle in that moment. And we need to understand some of the complications or some of the consequences of that. So here we are trying to provide a pop quiz, trying to check on understanding when we've already shut the youth down, because as soon as they got it, they're like, you know what? I may have known this stuff, but when I saw questions 1 through 3, I was already done. I was already checked out. I can no longer focus. I can no longer make those connections for what I need to do. Let me see. What other questions do I want to ask you on this? What could I have done to make the experience of struggle different for you? So we're going to move into that interpretive. Is there anything else that I could have made it a little bit easier for you or a little less of a struggle for you?
Reassurance.
Reassurance, absolutely. I did the opposite. I was like, oh, you won't know it. Come on now. I could also put you all in breakout groups, right? Having that peer-to-peer mentorship or just having someone there to assist in that moment, providing some kind of resource where you are supported in that struggle. I could have also done a little review, right? I could have actually put a map of Africa up for 5 minutes and said, how many countries can you actually remember and where they are? So that may have helped you a little bit, have a little bit of comfort going into the next slide, rather than just having a map of Africa with all the different numbers on there. And with the math, I could have given you an example, right? I could have modeled it for you if I knew how to do it. But I could have modeled it for you in that moment to say, okay, this is what the expectations are. These are the steps you follow to solve the equation. Just out of curiosity, did anyone get any of the math equations? Do I have any math people on the phone or on the computer? You got one, Antonio? Which one did you get?
Number one, I mean, I think you may be right. I don't know if anybody else tried that number one, but I got B equals 10. Did anybody else get that?
Hey, sounds right to me. I sure didn't get it. B equals, how'd you get B equals 10?
Well, I distributed the 8 in the -3 and then got 8b plus 8 equals -6. The minus 3b. And now that I'm looking at it, I got plus 3b. So it's probably still wrong again. So yeah, I need to take another look at it. So it may not be 10.
Let's see. So if a youth said, so another way we can support youth in the struggle, right? You can say, oh, I did this and this. I think it is, but maybe it's not. We can also teach our youth how to check for their understanding so that they know whether or not they got it correct. So if you say B equals 10 and I plug 10 into B on each side, does it do both sides equal each other? So, I mean, I know how to check if it's right. I just don't know how to get there necessarily anymore. No, no judgment. But also giving youth different resources for checking for their understanding. Because a lot of times they're like, yeah, okay, I got it right. And if I think I did it the right way the first time, I'm going to use that same method on all the other numbers and get all the other numbers right or wrong. So giving them also other options for checking for their understanding and making sure that they ensure that they actually know what they're doing. And they feel like they have a little bit support in that struggle. Did anyone get the African countries other than Kenya? That's okay. I know I took the other easy one, which was South Africa, and then Kenya to Kenya. So that is okay as well. But just understanding the anxiety that comes over you, or like the emotions that you deal with, even trying to answer these questions. And, we had nothing at stake. We're just here having a good time trying to do it and just using it as an example. But as a youth, we have to understand the emotions that are tied to the struggle that they go through as well. So your emotions a lot of times can shut you down as an adult or as a youth. So we want to make sure that we recognize this as well. All right, thank you for that. We are going to keep it moving. So now that we've experienced struggle with our pop quizzes, we're going to come into struggle for effectively supporting struggle for the youth in your program. So we want to make sure that we are able to effectively support this struggle that youth are going through. And that's what we'll go to next. So here, we want to make sure that we engage youth in that supported struggle. So not just shut the youth down or try to give the youth an answer in the moment so that they just solve the problem. We want to make sure that we actually support them. So that is building those true, authentic partnerships with youth and adults. So we want to, at first, recognize that struggle can be valuable and a way to learn. let our youth struggle, but provide those supports for the struggle. So struggle is valuable because when I struggle in the future with this, I now know the steps to solve it. If I'm a kindergartner trying to figure out what 3 plus, do they do that in kindergarten? 3 plus 2, I'm going way back now, 3 plus 2 is, I, as a teacher, I can come by and see my youth struggling and say, hey, remember it's 5 because 3 plus 2 is 5. 5, that's the answer. However, supporting them in their struggle would be giving them manipulatives and having them come up with that solution on their own. Why is 3 plus 2 5? Oh, because I have 3 pencils here. That's not 3. 3 pencils here, and I have 2 pencils here. And when I count all the pencils, it's 5. So that makes sense now. So now I have supported youth in the struggle, and it's been way more valuable because they know that in the future, I can use objects to figure out what the sum is, or I can use different things around me to understand what the sum is. But now I also understand why the answer is 5. And, you know, Miss Abdullah did not just tell me it's 5. So that helps for the future as far as ways to learn. Intentional opportunities to struggle, persevere with sufficient staff support, encouragement, and preparation. So we have to make sure that we are prepared for that youth struggle, being able to understand that our youth may struggle in these areas. So what can I do? How can I prepare to make sure that my youth are supported during this struggle? And then we also talked about encouragement, right? Kenya said that at one point. You know, if you would encourage a little bit more, if I had some encouraging words other than you should know it, do it, it may have been a little bit easier. So making sure that we provide that encouragement and letting you know what they're doing correctly and letting them know that they do have a solution. They just might have to sit there and think about it a little bit more. And also advocating effort and adjusting strategy. So that's that growth mindset, right? So instead of saying, it's, for example, you got it. I told you you were smart. That growth mindset is more so, you got it. You kept at it until you figured it out. So I'm not telling you, it's that self-reflection, it's that self-realization that it was you that came to the solution. All right, so this is preparing youth to strive, that key youth experiences. So up here it says initiative is capacities to take action, sustain motivation, and persevere through challenge toward a particular goal. So I am referencing page 7 in your workbook if you want to follow along with that, but we'll talk all about it. But I just want to let you know that this is on page 7 of your workbook, and we are focusing on that perseverance. So being able to build those skills and confidence, and that kind of goes hand in hand, right? Once we're able to build those skills, that confidence naturally gets built along with it. Experiencing challenge, know that our youth will always experience challenge, and letting them know that, you know, challenge is never going to go away, but it's all about how you deal with it in that struggle. And also being able to experience accomplishment and celebrating those accomplishments. You know, we focus so much on what we need to change and not what we do great. So we want to not just experience that challenge, but we also want to make sure that we experience that accomplishment and recognize that accomplishment as well. All right, here's a growth mindset quote. So I am going to ask a volunteer to read the quote for me. Whoever wants to, just come off mute and read it.
Growth mindset. I'm sorry.
You can go ahead.
Okay. In a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talent are just the starting point.
Thank you for that. Let me ask anybody, come off of mute. What are your thoughts or reactions to this quote?
something that stands out to me when I see it is that it's based on belief within yourself. So like people believe that their most basic abilities. So it's our abilities are kind of what we believe them to be.
Yes, that is exactly it. It's what we believe them to be. So the basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. And brains and talent are just the starting point, right? So we need to constantly grow with it. So that was exactly it, Antonio. Thank you. So let's go into what the growth mindset is. Oh, it's not letting me advance. There we go. So growth mindset is understanding that the intelligence and the ability can really change as a result of that practice, leveraging tools, resources, effort, all of that. So understanding that your brain can grow. It is not just I'm born with whatever knowledge and I have to deal with it and achieve through that. It's understanding that your brain can grow and your brain restructures through use and new connections. So it's like you said, if you lose it, if you don't use it, you lose it. Why can't I get that quote out? Anyway, you need to use that brain because it's just like a muscle. If you're constantly using it, it's constantly getting stronger. It is constantly growing. So just make sure that you know that just because you don't know this today doesn't mean you won't know it next week, or just because you're not strong in this today does not mean that you cannot be great at it. So let's look at the growth mindset versus what the fixed mindset is. And we all have both. But when we talk about that fixed mindset, it's what I said on the previous slide, right? I'm either born with it or I'm not. Intelligence and talent can't be changed. So either I'm supposed to be a piano player or I'm not. I was born with the skill or I wasn't. Plain and simple. I don't want to do something that makes me look dumb. I'd rather avoid challenge. And we see this a lot in our youth, right? A lot of times our youth don't want to do things or experience things that they are not familiar with or that are out of their comfort zone for fear of, peers around them, what they may say, how they may be viewed. So that's what that fixed mindset is. Like, you know what? I much rather stay in my comfort zone. I'm threatened by the success of others. This comes with a lot of times in our classroom. If our youth see that other youth in the classroom are super good at math, they always do that, they may shut down because I'm threatened by them now. Like everyone else seems to know it but me. And success is something out of my control. So that is what the fixed mindset is, right? But when we talk about growth mindset, it's that understanding that the brain is constantly growing and that the brain is constantly being fed. So intelligence can grow as a result of using my brain. The other is I desire to learn what I don't already know. Challenge is fun. So I can, on that fixed mindset, we say, look, I have it, or I don't have it. This says, you know what? I want to learn, and it's actually fun to present myself with a challenge. So that's that growth mindset. And I find inspiration in the success of others. So being inspired by what others know. And also, if I keep at it, I can succeed. So having that belief that as long as I continuously try to reach my goal, I can reach my goal and I will succeed. So we're going to look at some staff practices when it comes to youth in that supported struggle. So for scaffolding and coaching, we must, number one, build those positive relationships, right? Building those true, authentic partnerships and relationships between the youth and the adult, because the youth will be more open to what you have to say if that relationship is built. If you come in on day one and you go up to one of your youth and you say, hi, I'm Miss Abdullah, what's your name? Okay, What's your greatest fear in life? What is something that really affected you negatively in life? They're going to look at you and say, what are you talking about? I don't even know you. I got upset because I couldn't go to the corner store this morning and get my breakfast, but all that other stuff, I don't even know you like that. I have no desire to open up to you because I don't know you. So you must build those positive relationships. You must build those relationships in which you feel comfortable coming to you and opening up to you. We want to make sure that we plan for struggle, and we kind of touched on this earlier, making sure that I know that I'm come to my youth with this activity to do today, or I'm going to come to my youth with this to do today. What are some possible ways they might struggle? It's that risk management, right? Plan for the risk in the future. So we're planning for that struggle in the future and making sure that we have some kind of plan in place for how we are going to support you through this struggle. And of course, use encouraging language, right? You did this great, and as a result, this happened. Let's keep doing that. And whatever part you're struggling on, I know we're going to accomplish that. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and focus on that. And you tell me where you need my help to make sure that you get that part done. So making sure that we are always using encouraging language with our youth. So now, next, we want to talk about how to build those positive relationships. And of course, it all begins with trust. Whether you're a youth, whether you're an adult, I don't care what age you are. When you build a positive relationship, it's always built upon trust. So you want to make sure that you really know your youth. I want to refer you to page 4. I'm just want to make sure I'm giving you the right page. Yep, page 4 in the workbook. And that really talks about how to build positive relationships with your youth and how it builds with trust and how to know your youth. So that kind of goes into it a little bit more, but that is page 4 in your workbook. Plan for struggle. So we talked about this. Plan with your youth in mind. How will they struggle? How might they struggle with this activity? How might they not have understanding? Where might the pitfalls be? And that comes into play with scaffolding, right? So we can give them that big picture, but we want to scaffold to make sure that there is no kind of overwhelming feeling. So if I say, hey, I have all these materials for you. You all need to assemble this house by the end of the session. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? It's like giving them an IKEA project with no directions, or with the IKEA directions, because those are not clear either, I just want to say. But it's almost like, okay, you're giving them this big project, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down. You know what? It's too much when it comes to building the IKEA brand stuff, and nothing wrong with IKEA. I love IKEA. But when it comes to putting that furniture together, I shut down because there is no one there to support me in that struggle, other than this one page that has 30 steps that make no sense at all. So we have to understand that our youth feel that way sometimes, right? Hey, go do this. Okay, you know what? It's so overwhelming for me, and it's causing me so much anxiety that I don't even know where to start. So I'm just going to shut down from the start. So planning for that struggle and making sure that we're scaffolding to make it a little bit easier for our youth. Next, we are going to talk about using that encouraging language. So language that values what the struggle and the effort is, something that supports that growth mindset. So moving it away, making sure that we're using language that is centered around that growth mindset and not that fixed mindset. We want to make sure that we give our youth high expectations, right? But expectations that they can actually meet, and it conveys that belief in youth, right? To make sure that they believe that they can achieve this goal while setting the high expectations as well. So don't set expectations too high where they're like, you know what, I will never, ever be able to do that. So no, but we want to set some high expectations where they actually want to achieve that goal and they actually want to work to achieve that goal. Fosters youth ownership and is youth centered. So you know, we talk about that accountability, that ownership. We bring that youth voice into it by giving them encouraging language. You did this correctly and it's great. You can tell because look at this. You've gotten half the project done already because you did such a great job with this one thing. Let's move on to the next. I know that you're struggling at this point, so let me see what I can help you do to get to the next step. So it really utilizes that, the power of yet. All right. So we talked about that fixed mindset and that growth mindset as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few examples of how to kind of reframe that mindset. So for that fixed mindset, it's that praise, innate talent, intelligence, and that growth mindset is that praise or notice process. So that effort and what the effective strategies were. So when we talk about fixed mindset, we could say, you finished that quickly. You must be smart. We talk about what the growth mindset could be and changing that language is, you organize your time effectively. So that didn't take a long time. So it really lets them draw the connection about what they did that led to the outcome, right? So you finished that quickly, you must be smart. That gives no kind of substance around why they finished it so quickly, and it's really drawing an assumption on whatever it is. And what does that mean? You must be smart. When we talk about that growth mindset, it's more so driving home, here is what you did, and as a result, this is what happened. So you organize your time effectively, so that didn't take a long time. Another one, you are a really good student. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean I come to class? Does that mean I finish my work? Does that mean you like me because I sit in my chair? You don't have to tell me to be quiet. What does that even mean? But when we, oops. So it keeps advancing on me. Sorry about that. So let's talk about how can we really change this up to a growth mindset language. So if I said, hey, you are a really good student, how can I make that into a growth mindset statement? If anybody can take a stab at it, can come off of mute and tell me what you think we can say.
So when I think about it being more so around like effort, I'm thinking like you would kind of point out the whys of like what they're doing to be a good student. So maybe it's like you are doing a good job paying attention and following instructions, or you're doing a really good job with your reading and getting all of your homework completed on time.
Perfect, Antonio, thank you. So yes, it's very specific, it's very pointed. It's it lets them know what they do well versus maybe what they need to work on. So, you know, you're a really good student, you get your assignments done and recheck for quality work before turning things in. Great. So it's kind of like when you if you were to give a student a paper that they wrote back and you gave them a B and you put good job. All right, fine. I did good. I don't need to do anything else different. Instead of giving them more pointed, this was an excellent paper. I loved your opening, your content, you supported with different content. In the for your conclusion, you could have supported your statements a little bit more, which is why I gave you a B or something like that. But now this student knows that, man, I'm good on openings, I'm good on supported content, I'm good on providing resources. Let me just focus on this one thing because that helps me to grow even more. So I'm telling them why they are a good student. And like Antonio said, he's telling them why they are a good student or why they feel like they are a good student. All right. Here's another one. I need you to finish your project. So we're going to talk about adult-centered language versus that youth-centered language, right? So I need you to finish your project. If we want it to be more youth-centered language, we would say, some of you need to finish your project. So I'm taking the I out of it. I'm taking myself out of it as the adult because it's about the youth, right? So we want it to be about the youth in that moment. So it goes from I need you to finish your project or to some of you need to finish your project. That puts that responsibility and the accountability on the youth and it takes it off of you. Here's an example to practice. Thank you for finishing your design. I want you to start the construction phase now. Does anybody want to take a stab at it to see how this can be more youth-centered language?
Maybe something to the effect of, you guys did great finishing your designs. We're about to start the construction phase, maybe.
Very good. Yes. So put it back, put them back on them. You know, your design is finished. Now you get to start on construction and it's more like you. This is all about you. It's not about me. I'm just here to support you. So everything I say is going to be about you. So we want to make sure that as we look at the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, also that language that we use with our youth, we want to make sure that we move it from more adult-centered language to more of a youth-centered language. And, you know, we do it sometimes, we don't even realize that we are using adult-centered language. So we want to make sure that we make all of our language really around what the youth are doing in that moment and make it about the youth. So now we want to talk about the growth mindset through an equity lens. So we know that we want to talk about growth mindset, but we know that there are equitable reasons. There are reasons with equity that some things may work, some things may not work. Even when it comes to supporting that struggle, understanding which resources are available to our youth and understanding that our youth come from different backgrounds. So when we did that opening, one of those opening activities with the quizzes, is it fair to come into the classroom and say, look, you all should know this already. You're in, that's got to be at least an 8th grader, right? You guys are in 8th grade and you all should know how to do this, so do it. But that's not really looking at it through a lens of equity. Everyone in my classroom did not have access to the resources that the other ones had, right? It could be, they come from different schools. They come from different classrooms. They come from different households. They come from different environments. And all of this can come into play when it comes to a youth struggling in whatever they are doing. So with that, let me switch on. All right. So with page 33, not page 33, slide 33 here, it directly references page 7 in your workbook. So it talks about some potential pitfalls of the growth mindset, and it relates directly to that equity issue. So understand how to use your encouraging language matters. You know, so I could say one thing to one youth and the same thing to another youth, and it could affect them completely differently. So that comes to understanding that youth, building those positive relationships with your youth, so you know what encourages them and what doesn't encourage them. Different people are encouraged by different things, right? As youth, as adults, we are encouraged differently. Some are encouraged as adults. Some of us are encouraged by money. Some of us are encouraged by what comes from it. Some of us are encouraged by the work that we do. Different things encourage different people. Different words affect different people differently. So we have to understand that our encouraging language matters. And we have to also keep in mind who our audience is when we use that encouraging language. Not everyone's situation is the same. We do have to understand this, right? So a lot of times we as adults in a classroom, we have goals we have to meet, absolutely. So we are so sometimes focused on achieving this goal that we don't understand how much our youth struggle to reach our goal. So not everyone's situation is the same. They come into the classroom. Why didn't you do this assignment once again? Once again, you didn't do this assignment. Now I can say that's to two different youth. And two different youth can have completely different reasons that I may know about or I may not know about as to why they didn't complete the assignment. One may just say, you know what, I just didn't feel like it. But we also want to explore that as well. Is it because they were struggling and got so frustrated that they said, you know what, I much rather take the L on this? Is it that they're going home to a home that does not have the ideal homework situation, or they don't have the support they need at home to complete that assignment? So just understand that everyone's situation is the same. I mean, you may just have a youth that just said, look, I didn't have time. I didn't feel like it. I went out and played. I had dinner. I went to bed. Just didn't feel like it. So everyone's situation is the same. So we also have to understand that equity and injustice are real. Okay. This is something that we deal with every day. We always try to meet the needs of our youth with very, 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 very limited resources on our end. So we have to understand that equity and justice are very much a real thing. And it's important to not deny reality and factors that are out of our control, out of the youth's control. So just having an understanding, and I recognize that this is out of my control. I recognize that this is out of the youth's control, but making sure that we humanize it at first, right? We come in, we say, hey, I understand who you are as a person. I understand what struggles you're going through. I understand that I don't have the resources, all the resources you need. I understand that you don't have all the resources you need, but I want a recognition of that in the beginning. Just like in the beginning of this, I said, look, I understand you all are here for a 2-hour workshop. If you need to go to the bathroom, if you need to drink some water, some coffee, whatever it is to get you through these 2 hours, please do it, because I recognize you as a human first before I recognize you as a staff member coming to show up for this required, not required training or whatever it may be. With the ideas of struggle and what's under one's own control, it's possible to take a concept to an extreme. So just understand that we just have to know what the struggle is. We have to recognize what that struggle is. And we have to do whatever we can to explore the why behind the what. Why is this youth not doing this? Why is this youth struggling so hard on this one thing? What can I do to support that youth in that struggle? So next we are going to go into what are some of the pitfalls of operating in the extreme, right? So the extreme, when we talk about the extreme, one side of the extreme is I have no control over anything in my life. It's useless to even try. But then we have that other side of the extreme is I can do anything because I am the master of my destiny. Whatever I want to do, I can do it. I promise you I can do it. So we want to talk about what are some of the pitfalls of operating in that extreme. And if you go to page 9 in your workbooks, the participant workbook, it will talk about what are some of the pitfalls of operating in this extreme, and then all about how to find the balance. So let me here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put you all in breakout rooms. It's going to be about, let's see, breakout rooms. Recreate. We're going to do another 2 breakout rooms. It'll be about 3 of you per room. And I want you all to talk about this question and come up with different strategies. So how do we encourage youth while also acknowledging individual and collective realities? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you all in breakout rooms for about 10 minutes. And I want you all to discuss this. So talk about finding the balance. Talk about how our youth sometimes operate in the extreme, and how do we encourage youth to not operate in the extreme, but to kind of find that middle ground, found that balance. How do we encourage them? How do we encourage the youth while also acknowledging the individual and collective realities of our youth. So I will put you in breakout rooms for 10 minutes for you to talk about the question and come up with some different strategies. Are there any questions before I put you into your breakout rooms? All right. I am going to go ahead and get started.
Renee, are these is your slide being shared within the breakout rooms?
It is not. Is there a way to do that on Zoom?
I believe so. And if you go down to where it says share screen or the bracket. What do you see for your options down there?
I don't have any because I'm already, oh, here we go. New share. No. One participant can share at a time. I can stop sharing. You are screen sharing.
Can you then open up the breakout rooms?
Okay.
You see
And
anywhere?
I see broadcast or close all rooms.
That ain't it either. I can't even remember how to do it.
I can, you know what? I'll just broadcast the question there. Broadcast message. Why did it go away? All right, welcome back. I hope you all had some good discussions in those rooms. I just want to take some time to debrief. So let me go to the official debrief slide. And I'm going to do the ORIT method again. So I want to start with objective, and I want to ask, what stood out from, to you from your discussion? So we can let's start with group 2 this time, room number 2, and then we'll go to room number 1. So room 2, do you want to share?
In room 2 was Kenya, Levon, and Robbie.
Levon did it, so, and you did such an awesome job, Levon. So go ahead.
So what we talked about was the different adversities that impact young people, and different resources that they may need, and then figuring out how to actually establish the communication. So one was actually figuring out their strengths and weaknesses, figuring out different things that they plague them in the communities, different things that they deal with in school, different things that they deal with in their family environments, and using all of those different knowledge about them as individuals to establish a rapport with each individual. And then wherever they may be struggling at as far as curriculums are concerned, to pretty much go in and pinpoint that, just to acclimate them to the rest of the group. And then through understanding who everybody is as individuals, it gives you a better outlook when you're addressing everybody in general, where you can key in on certain things that tap into each individual's lives without going into no detail, but you'll use prompting words pretty much to bring everybody together as a group, promote unity, and then complete whatever missions or tasks, as well as make them more productive citizens in society.
Thank you, Levon. And group 2, Levon, let me just ask you one follow-up question. And this is the reflective of the ORIT. What were you thinking or feeling during the discussion? Like, how did it feel to have this discussion around the youth?
It felt really good because within our group too, understanding everybody and what they actually do and their as individuals, we established a connection to where we actually just kind of created a partnership where we can utilize each other and help each one of our groups, basically. Like, so not to go into no real deep discussion about it, but we just talked about everything that we do, and then the people that we work with, and then how we can form a collaboration too to help the youth and empower them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And I appreciate that, group 2, and Levon for representing your group. Let's go to group 1. Let me ask you the same question. What stood out to you from the discussion, and what were you thinking or feeling during this discussion?
That was a group that I was in with Zuri and Whitney. We kind of had 3 different approaches towards it. So mine was more so around setting like rules and guidelines that include the youth, so that they don't feel like they can do whatever they want, but then also feel like they do have some control in what goes on. And so to kind of hit both sides and kind of help get that healthy medium is to set those like rules and guidelines, but just having their voice included, so that it's not just coming from me, but it also is inclusive of the others. And then Zuri had an approach and Whitney had a different approach, so I'll let them share their different perspectives with theirs as well.
So my approach generally, since I work with kids 5 and under, is more so like the talk through method, explaining why I believe that would be good for them, what's their thoughts on it, and if they essentially have any type of reserves, why do they feel that way, and trying to get them to more so understand before I make them do anything.
Thank you, Zuri. And somebody else who was the third person in that group?
It was me. So I usually just give my students alternative options if it's something that they don't want to do. And if the alternative options that I come up with aren't good enough, then I'll have the kids brainstorm together and think of alternative options as well.
Thank you guys for all of that. Definitely, like Antonio said, the control, giving that youth voice control, because it really gives them that buy-in to really work with you together. So, and then also recognizing that there are different approaches to working with different youth of different ages. So I know, was that you, Zuri, that said you work with the youth that are a little bit younger. So your approach has to be just a little different when it comes to that. So absolutely, absolutely. So what we are going to move into now is that application phase of it, right? So we've talked about the growth mindset, the fixed mindset, the adult-centered language versus the youth-centered language. We've done some activities in which we could talk about how we support youth in that struggle, talking about how we support youth in that struggle, understanding why youth may struggle in a particular area, and making sure that we plan to make sure that we support youth in the struggle. So with this, I know, breakout rooms one more time. And for this one, we are going to do a case study because we're trying to do that application. So we're trying to take everything we learn and kind of apply it. And we're going to use a case study for that. I am going to ask you to refer to page 10 and 11 in your workbooks, because we're not going to do the one on 12, because we're only going to have 2 breakout rooms. And it will be the same rooms you had for the previous breakout room that we did with just this short activity. So once you get in your breakout room, if you're in breakout room number 1, I want you to do page 10. That is case study number 1. If you are in breakout group number 2, if you're in room number 2, I want you to do page 11, which is case study number 2. So all you'll do is you'll go ahead and read the case study that is on that page, and then you'll complete some of the following questions or anything that is following up to that. After we do that, we will come back and we will just have someone from your group represented tell us what the case study was about and what the feedback was you gave from it. So as you go into your group, I just want you to keep in mind the 3 strategies. So knowing the youth, really building those relationships, making sure that there's some kind of scaffolding and coaching that's planned for, encouraging youth to make adjustments in that moment, and making sure that we are using the encouraging language with our youth. So pointing out, let them know what they did to lead to whatever outcome it was. So hopefully everyone has their workbooks handy. If not, at least one person have the workbook handy, and you should be able to share your screen within your breakout room if you want to bring it up for everyone else in your group. So understanding that this is going to take a little bit longer, I'm gonna give you more than 5 minutes. I will give you 10 minutes in these breakout rooms, because I want to make sure that we leave time to come back and do a breakdown of the case studies, and then also leave time for our closing and reflection in the end. Before I put you into your breakout rooms, are there any questions?
What's the case study assignments one more time, please?
Yeah, so if you're in breakout room number 1, it'll be on page 10 in your workbook. It'll say case study 1. If you are in breakout room number 2, it'll be on page 11 in your workbooks, and that'll say case study 2. Cool. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open the room, and just let me know if you have any questions along the way. See you soon. Some of the stuff, I know.
This meeting is recorded.
I know 10 minutes is not a lot of time to get through some of this stuff, but we want to make sure that we give you all the chance to at least lightly touch on some of the parts of it. So case studies. Let's start with room number 1, Charles, Whitney, and Zuri. We could talk about, if you could just briefly tell us what the case study was about and what you all discussed in your room.
All right, I'll read what the case study was and I'll have them to answer the questions. So we had a group of 10 eighth graders who were working on building catapults, and everybody's like ideas were different within it. And then we get to the first day of building, and then two of the groups are able to, work together and adapt really well. But there was one group of eighth graders there were a lot of yelling and tears and not a lot of building. And then so the prompt was for us to go over to the third group. And so what we observed, of course, in the prompt, it says yelling, tears, and very little building. And then for the first question, it's like, what might be the underlying cause of the behaviors? And I'll let someone from the group to answer that one.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I'm having issues going back and forth with going to the workbook and reading what I catered to answer the questions. Give me one moment. Oh,
You
good.
good, Tia? We're not on your group yet. This is for
okay, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun.
You're good. This is for case study 2 with the eighth graders in the catapult building.
It is our group. I
thought
Yeah,
we would break up too.
Yeah, so room number, I started with room 1, which should have been the case study 1, and then room 2 had whatever the case study 2 was.
Oh, so we might have done the wrong one. Y'all,
That's okay.
were we group 1? I don't remember which room we did. I know we did case study number 2. So if we were the group 1, then we did the wrong one.
It's okay. Even if you all both worked on, even if both rooms worked on the same case study, we can talk about the feedback from your room, and then we could transition over to Kenya's room, and they can talk about what they discussed.
My bad, Kenya. So you was right with the case study. So I can't remember who said what, but somebody said for the first one, what might be the underlying cause of the behaviors? It was lack of interest, like they may not want to do the activity, there may be a lack of support from like the staff, and maybe everybody's like trying to be a leader and there aren't defined roles, and that no one is listening or working together. That's for the first one. And then for the second one, what can we do about it in the moment to support struggle? We would like get a response from all individuals in the group, appoint someone a leader or challenge someone to be a leader, and then have someone to take a lead. And then for the last one, what can we do differently next time to support struggle from the outset? We said appoint and define roles prior to the activity, pick a role, or have the young people to pick a role that they want, or have them to even pick the group that they want to be in. And then lastly is to give some positive encouragement, let them know that they're going to do a great job prior to even starting the project.
Thank you, Antonio. With that, you know what? I'll transition over to you, Kenya, because I know you had some feedback, and also you can talk about what your room discussed when it came to that case study.
Okay, look, now I gotta get back to the workbook. Hold on. I'm sorry, you guys. Just a moment. Okay, so do you need me to read like the whole case study and then answer the questions? Because I don't mind.
You can. That's fine.
Okay, so case study 2, we had you got a group of 10 eighth graders who have been working on a session related to catapults. They researched the history, they looked at different building ideas and designed their catapult plan. You have supported them and know that our plans will work, but also know that during the courses of the build, each group model is going to take some problem solving and collaboration for the design to function. On the first day of building, 2 of the groups are able to work together and adapt as they hit obstacles. The third group has lots of yelling, tears, and very little building. You go over to the third group. So we realize that this is based on the third group. So the question 1 out of 4 was, what are the observed youth behaviors? And we observed not getting along and having conflict. The second question was, what might be the underlying cause of the behaviors? What needs are being exhibited? So that was like a two-parted question. So we said not willing to work with one another, egotistical things in the way, and leadership in established roles, which goes into question 4. Question number 3, and the question reads, what can we do about it in the moment to support struggle and promote growth mindset? So we said leadership in established roles, empower them, to be the leaders that they are, and or pull it out of them, for them to discover that they can work collectively, which goes into number 4. What can we do differently next time to support struggle from the outset for this young person or group? And we said to assign roles, encourage and empower, of course, congratulate them for willing to come together collectively and willing to execute the plan.
Thank you so much, Kenya, for all of that. I know we are running just 10, we only have about 10 minutes left, but I just wanted you all to kind of get some practice with how you can kind of put that into action. This participant workbook that you have is a really good resource for you to take back to whichever organizations you're with. And they have 3 different case studies you can do. So if you want to go back as a group and say, hey, let's do case study number 1 as we really explore this fixed versus growth mindset. Or let's do case 3 as, as my staff here as an organization, so we can kind of go through that. I encourage you to do that. The workbook will actually give you all the information you need about what the fixed versus growth is, so you can take it back, the adult-centered language, having practice with that youth-centered language as well. It'll give you some examples in there. So that is a great resource to take back to your organizations. I know we did a lot today, so it was we kind of ran through everything fast, but I wanted you all to make sure you got the content and also had some of that application time. As far as implementation, I would like to reference page 14 in your workbook. And this has an implementation plan that you can go ahead and do for your organization or for the youth that you work with, whether it's directly or indirectly. So this implementation plan on page 14 just has some questions you can go through and you can kind of answer, and it helps to kind of generate that brainstorming, and we'll give you some different prompts to get you started with that implementation plan. So when you think of that implementation plan, you want to think of a young person or 2, or even as your program as well as, or the program as a whole, as you're going through filling out this plan for how you plan to support youth in that struggle. All right, so that brings us to our closing and reflection. And I would like to reference one other page in your workbook, and that is page 15. And you will see it says reflection, note to self. Where and how will you use growth mindset to move this work forward? So what I want you to do is I'm gonna give you about 3 minutes. That'll take us to 11:56 to really go ahead and review this page in your workbook, and feel free to start filling out or jotting down some information. So at 11:56, we're gonna come back together. We're gonna share out for 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna kick it back over to Antonio to close us out. So 11:56, we'll come back. So page 15 in the workbook. See you in 3. All right, it is officially 11:56 on my end. I want to give just 2 minutes to do a reflection share out, and then I'm gonna kick it back over to Antonio to close us out. So, would anybody like to share anything that they came up with on their note to self? Whether it's I believe I can grow this skill, the supports I need are, the struggles worth working through are, or anything related to growth mindset or anything we discussed today.
Got a very chatty group today.
I
Well,
know.
what's funny is
I
I've
know.
been trying to stop from doing all the talking, Antonio. I try to give other people a talk because I really be very verbal. So sometimes it's good to hear from other people. So I'm sorry, as you will see, Renee, Miss Abdul, as we're moving forward. I'm very chatty, but
Okay. I'm with
I
you.
love the work that I do, but it's, I try to give others the opportunity. Plus, I like working in groups. But to answer the question, I think this is ongoing. This ain't just for the youth. I think it's for adults too.
Absolutely. A lot of
I
things that
always say
our youth need, we
consistent
need it too.
self-evaluation is always needed because we're not always right and we're not perfect and we will never be. We are humans and trying to help the youth to raise good, productive citizens in the world.
I agree. And we need to get out of that adultism mindset that we do subconsciously sometimes, where we're like, I know what I'm talking about. Listen to me, do as I say, just trust me on this. I've been there, done that. And we can't take that approach. A lot of times we need to listen to our youth as well. Our youth know a lot. Our youth are living different experiences. Our youth are growing up in a whole different time frame. And just like when those generations before us try to tell us the same thing, well, I know what I'm talking about. It's like, no, you don't. I know what I'm talking about because I've lived these experiences and I have technology that you didn't have back then, or I have resources that you did not have back then, and I have access. It's all about that access, right? As generations go on, they get more and more and more access. So we need to start listening to our youth. We are not always right. I definitely agree with you on that. And thank you, Kenya, for all that self-recognition as well. I'm a chatty person as well. It's hard for me to kind of fall back sometimes. So it's all about that self-recognition. If anybody else wants to say anything, please feel free to come off of mute and say it. But I know that we are coming up on time. So feel free to say something. If not, I'm gonna kick it back over to you, Antonio.
All right, I'll go ahead and share and also kind of close this out. For me, I think I need to do a better job of being more specific, like when it comes to praising efforts and not just saying, oh, good job, but actually saying, what exactly are they doing a good job on, or like, what exactly am I praising? But just being a bit more specific in those types of, in the language that I use for that growth mindset. But yeah, thank everybody for joining us today. In the chat, you see that I did post the survey. So if you could please fill that out to let us know how this went and also what ideas you would like us to have in the future. And we'll try to get that to happen for you all. Please remember that we are still in full swing of accepting applications for our Youth Success RFP, our grant opportunity. So if your organization has not applied yet, the deadline is this Friday, February 10th at 5 p.m. So please spread the word to anybody in the organization who does the grant writing or any of the fundraising that they know about this opportunity. This opportunity is for 2 years worth of funding. So please make sure you apply for that. We have our next session, I think it is next week, maybe on February 16th, I believe, where we will be covering implicit bias. So if anybody within your organizations want to attend that, please have them to go ahead and register. But without further ado, you would get the recording of this and also the materials to, again, in the email. Thank you all so much for joining us, and please have a great rest of your day and a fantastic week.
Thank you, guys. See you next month.